The apartment on Willow Street. The evening mist curled around the narrow alleys of Willow Street, cloaking the crumbling buildings in a ghostly haze. Among them stood Ashwood Apartments, a 10-story structure with a history no one dared to speak of. Rent was low, neighbors kept to themselves, and there was always a vacant unit. Few stayed for long. When Mira and David stumbled upon the apartment listing, it seemed like a dream. The spacious unit on the 5th floor, with its tall windows and antique charm, was everything they had hoped for. They dismissed the landlord's vague remarks about the building's long-standing reputation as exaggerated gossip. But from the moment they moved in, the air felt wrong. The couple spent their first night unpacking. As the shadows deepened, Mira noticed the temperature drop. Every creak and groan from the old pipes seemed amplified. At around midnight, David woke to the faint sound of footsteps from the unit above. The rhythmic tapping paced the floorboards, then suddenly stopped. "There's no one living upstairs," the landlord had said earlier. By morning, Mira's unease grew when she found dark stains near the kitchen sink. No matter how much she scrubbed, the discoloration remained, like a faint outline of something long forgotten. Days passed, and the strange occurrences escalated. At night, soft whispers echoed from the walls. Mira thought she saw the silhouette of a woman standing by the window, her figure barely visible through the reflection. David tried to rationalize it. The building was old, the plumbing was faulty, but even he couldn't explain the damp, musty odor that permeated their apartment, as if something rotten lay just beneath the floorboards. Then came the knocking. It started faintly, like a distant tapping at their door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Every time David opened it, no one was there. Determined to find answers, Mira dug into the building's history. The truth unraveled like a nightmare. In 1954, Ashwood Apartments was the site of a gruesome tragedy. A woman named Eleanor Hayes had lived in the very unit Mira and David now occupied. She was a reclusive figure, rumored to be deeply in love with a man named Charles, a tenant from the 7th floor. But Charles betrayed Eleanor, leaving her for another woman. Overcome by despair, Eleanor was said to have taken her own life. Some whispered that she had cursed the apartment, while others believed she never left. Soon after, tenants began reporting strange sightings: a woman in a flowing nightgown, her eyes hollow and lifeless. Every tenant who dared to stay for long met with inexplicable misfortunes. But the most unsettling rumor was that Charles never left either. One night, he disappeared without a trace. Some believed Eleanor's vengeful spirit had dragged him into her torment, sealing his fate within the walls. Mira's discovery came too late. That night, the temperature plummeted. The once dim whispers grew into agonized wails. David awoke to find Mira standing in the corner of the room, her face pale and expressionless. "She's coming," Mira murmured, her voice distant. "She wants him back." David shook her, desperate to break the trance. Then the apartment door slammed shut, and the walls trembled. Dark, damp stains spread across the ceiling. From the corner of his eye, David saw the figure of a woman, her nightgown billowing unnaturally. Eleanor, desperate. David recalled an old newspaper article that mentioned a hidden room in the basement, a place where Eleanor was rumored to have performed rituals in her grief. He dragged Mira, still in her trance-like state, through the winding halls of the building. The basement was cold and oppressive, with only the flicker of his flashlight guiding the way. Behind a pile of discarded furniture, they found it, a sealed door, marked with strange carvings. David forced it open, revealing a small chamber. At the center stood an altar, blackened with age, and on it lay an old, cracked photograph of Charles and Eleanor. "She trapped him," Mira whispered, her voice barely audible. "She wouldn't let him go, David." now consumed with resolve, set the photograph ablaze. The air thickened as a guttural scream echoed through the chamber. The flames devoured the image, and the suffocating presence that lingered in the air began to dissipate. In the days that followed, the atmosphere of Ashwood Apartments changed. The damp stains vanished. The whispers ceased. Mira and David left the apartment soon after, unwilling to risk any lingering presence. But as they drove away, Mira glanced back one last time. From the fifth-floor window, a figure stood, her pale face devoid of anger, only sorrow remained. The building, now quiet, seemed to mourn the end of its twisted tale. Yet, some say, on nights when the wind howls through Willow Street, the sound of faint footsteps can still be heard, a reminder of the ghostly past that lingers within the walls of Ashwood Apartments.